Is analog hardware better than plugins? This is a question I've asked before, and the answer depends on what it is you're actually interested in. This time my question is my analog mix bus worth keeping? What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of these tracks and I'm going to run it through my SSL The Bus Plus compressor and my Elysia Xfilter EQ, and then I'm going to do the same thing with some software, and the idea being, can we see whether one gets a better result from an audio point of view and also talk workflow. Ultimately, this is going to help me decide whether I do keep this gear. Most important thing with doing any comparison is ensuring volume matching. So what I've got here is I've got my track, I've got my two references, and you're going to see that they're all level matched. So I've got this multi-volume comparison tool here, which is really cool, but I've also got a level meter on the main output, and what I care about is the average volume. The peaks we can ignore. So here's the track. Around -20. Here's reference 1. Around -20, reference 2. Around -20. Okay, so they're on or about the same volume, so we can move in now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage my analog mix bus. From a flow point of view, I've got the track going into a bus, and the bus has got on it some metering, so we've got this here. So we've also got the BX meter, and then we've got the I/O, which is going to my mix bus. From there, we're going into a master bus, which has got some gain. Then I've got God particle, and then I've got another volume control afterwards, just turning it all back down again, so that the volume coming through here is the same on the input to the output. Okay, so what have we got? SSL The Bus Plus compressor, and then we're going down into my Elysia Xfilter, which is a 4-band stereo EQ. Cool, right, in we go. Okay, super interesting. I started with the EQ first, and I just started hearing some crunching. So I think what's happening is when I did my EQ boost, I've added a bit of low end and stuff. I think that is causing this limiter to crunch a little. So I've just checked, and we've got a little increase in volume across the EQ, which is no massive surprise. So let's just drop that down by a dB, coming back into the computer. Right, compression. Always crank it, get my release time sorted. Okay, so what I was doing there, I was just trying to find the right kind of bounce settings where I get a little bit of movement from the compressor, but it's not harming the tone of the track, it's not harming the groove of the track. I've used the feedback mode, which actually, for me, always kind of stops it sucking the mix. I often end up with that button engaged, and I think when you do that, it does make it different from a classic SSL bus compressor. Let's see how the references compare. Let's just do a little bit of a comparison of the frequencies of the three there. Alright, so when we compare them, the main difference I'm hearing is that my version here has got too much top-end sparkle. I think loud it might be a bit of an issue. So if we focus in on that area, and then turn it down a little bit. No, let's use the high cut. Ah, that's better. One of the key features of the SSL The Bus Plus is that it's got these different modes. When it's in stereo mode, it feels very, very centralized, and no surprise when you put it in mid-side, what I've now got is I've got compression in the center, and I've not really got the needle moving at all on the sides. So I'm compressing the center, not the sides, which means the reverbs have got space to breathe. In Logic, you could do that in the software by putting a SSL bus compressor in dual mono mode and then telling it to go mid-side. So you could do that, compress the mids, and then you could just have no compression in the sides. You could even turn it off. So you could do that. So let's now compare to the original and see if I've made it better or worse. Okay, cool. So compared to the original, it definitely sounds a bit brighter now, and it feels as a result like it's got a bit more presence. Can we emulate that with software? We're going to route it through the same master bus because that makes it fair. So we want the SSL bus compressor and we want some kind of EQ. Right, let's go. So okay, so I can't get this to do exactly the same sort of thing. The top end particularly isn't really working for me, but I'll leave it in for the purposes of comparison. Okay, we need to do some level checks here. So they're the same. So in and out, about the same. 21, in, out. So let's just do EQ to EQ. Software. Analog. Software. There's kind of more low mid on the analog one. I haven't replicated the settings, so what we can do is actually directly compare using Plugin Doctor. Interesting. I did a pretty reasonable job of matching those two. I don't have a top end cutoff on this, so I did a little boost to 8K, which actually looks like it should have been a bit higher and a bit narrower. There we go. That's closer, isn't it? So I did it on my ears, of course. I did not look at the settings. So I got the bottom end right. I got the top end different. So what does that tell you? It tells you that this doesn't sound necessarily a lot better than the plugin, and it shouldn't, because plugins are really good now. But I reached different decisions grabbing those controls than I did grabbing those controls. I want to see whether the compressor has a tonal character of its own. Alright, so harmonic analysis, basically that's with the compressor bypassed, that's with it in circuit. So unsurprisingly, having those in is actually generating some harmonics, which is kind of what you expect, what you want from Analogue. Let's do some section by section comparisons then. So let's turn the EQ off on both. So we're just doing compressor versus compressor. That's interesting. I feel like going through this, there's a little bit more low end, certainly a bit more of like a warmth bump that I'm not getting from the software. It just feels also a little bit cleaner somehow, as well as having that bump. All right, let's put the dynamic EQs in. So again, Analogue, software. Oh, that's quite different. Okay. So putting them in dulls the mix a bit. But bearing in mind, I put them in after I'd done my EQing, so I think the combination of the two is actually getting me where I want the mixed tone to be. So final AB. We're going now analog compressor, analog EQ, software compressor, software EQ. That's analog, software, analog. It's close. In summary, on this particular track, the sound you can achieve the same pretty much by using an EQ and a compressor in software. There was limited differences between them in terms of tone. I didn't get the same results using the software after I'd done it with the Analogue. My EQ settings were different. What we learnt was that I liked the hands-on feeling of using the Analogue gear, but we could get the same results in the software. The Bus Plus has just got so many features, so many possibilities in one box that actually, again, from a hands-on control point of view, you can do a lot with it without having to touch your mouse and without having to necessarily use anything much more than your ears. My only thing about this is recall. I have to write everything down, take pictures. That's not a problem, but the potential for mistakes is incurred. And if it had a plugin for recall, that would be awesome. Anyway, there you go. Analogue versus plugins. Usability, I think, trumps sound, because the sound is good with plugins. I'm going to keep these. I've decided, it's going to be kept.